fraction.
Take one.
Yeah. Well, take two because you already done it.
All right, so in this example, we're going to do pretty much the same thing we did last time, only hopefully you notice the equation is not in y equals mx plus b form, so we're going to have to solve that equation to find the slope. And we want to find the line that is perpendicular this time and not parallel. So we know we need the opposite flip. All right, so we're going to use that same exact point as we did before. So this is going to be our x sub 1, and the negative 1 is going to be our y sub 1. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to take this equation and we're going to take it and solve it for y. So then we can look and find our slope, because in order to plug it into point slope form, we need a point and we need a slope. So let me just refresh your memory what that equation is. It is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And so in order to use this equation, we need to know a slope and a point. So the y coordinate of a point, the x coordinate of the point. And we're going to plug that stuff in. So we know where the x sub 1 is. We're going to replace it with our negative 2. And we know where our y sub 1 is. We're going to replace it with our negative 1. And we need to figure out what our m is. So we need to figure out what the slope is. And so we have to do some work over here first before we can determine that slope. All right, so I'm going to take that equation, negative x, and I like to put a 1 in front of there, plus 2y equals negative 4. And what we're going to do is we need to get the y all by itself. So we need the y all by itself, so it's in the form y equals mx plus b. So that is called a slope-intercept form. And so we're going to take this equation and we got to get the y by itself. So in order to do that, the first thing we need to do is we need to move this x. So you always move the x. So we're going to add 1x. Since it's a negative 1x, we're going to do the opposite or inverse operation and add 1x. And whatever you do to one side, we have to do it over to the other side. And notice I put it on the right, but not underneath it, because these are not like terms. We cannot actually add or combine them. So we're going to have 2y equals, and I like to just put it in the front. So I'm going to put 1x minus 4. And now we need to get rid of the 2 in front of the y because we want the y by itself. So we're going to divide by 2. We're going to divide everything by 2. And when we divide by 2, this goes away and becomes just 1. So we just get y equals. This is going to be 1/2 x minus 2. So 2 does not go into 1, so we just leave it as a fraction. So we know the equation of this slope, the slope of this equation is going to be 1/2. So we want one that is perpendicular. So the slope of something perpendicular is going to have to satisfy two things. It's got to be the opposite and it has to be the flip. So we know the opposite of a positive 1/2 is going to be a negative. So we know it has to be negative. And the flip of this, so instead of 1 over 2, we're going to flip it and it's going to become 2 over 1. But we know 2 divided by 1 is just negative 2. So this would be the slope of a perpendicular to that equation. So we know here we're going to plug in negative 2 into there so that it has a perpendicular slope, because the slope has to be the opposite and the flip. All right, so now we're going to just go ahead and make this a little cleaner. We're going to write y minus, leave a spot, equals a blank spot, x minus, leave a blank spot, and we're going to actually plug in those numbers. So negative 2, because of our perpendicular slope, was negative 2. And then we're going to put -1 because that's our y coordinate. And we're going to put in -2 here because that was our x coordinate. And then just like what we did before, we're going to clean those up a little bit. Double negatives become positives. Double negatives become positives. That's a little sloppy, but hopefully we get it. And now we're going to go ahead and do what we did before. Distribute that -2. So remember, distribute means to just multiply that. -2x. And -2 times a +2 is going to be -4. So we're multiplying. There's a 1 in front of there. So -2 times 1, -2. -2 times 2, -4. And now we need this y all by itself. So we have to, one last final step, we got to subtract 1 to each side. And we're going to put it right underneath its like term. -2x is not a like term, so we're going to put it right over here to the -4. And we are done at -2x minus 5, because a -4 and a -1 is -5. And that is an equation of a line that will pass through this point and is perpendicular to that equation.